Welcome back to the teaching series. We're looking at the life of Jesus and we're considering who this is that we're following. My name is Brian Creary. I'm the director of Sanctuary House of Prayer here in Winnipeg, and we're in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic and the isolation and all the dynamics that are pressing on us. I feel the invitation of the Lord: draw near to me, spend time, and get to know me in a deeper way. And I think even as we've considered, looking more deeply into him, into who he is, starting to really feel like we're going to need some of this. That the Lord's not doing it just randomly because he likes us, although that's really true. But I think that there's more going on, and I think we're going to benefit from the experience of getting to know Him in a more meaningful way in the next season. I think is going to be really important. So. Last time we were together, we were looking at Matthew chapter 3, verses 13 to 17. This is the baptism of Jesus. We kind of did a quick overview of the circumstances and what took place there. We saw that it was an unusual situation. Jesus sort of emerges from 30 years on the earth and comes forward to be baptized in the southern part of the nation by his cousin John, who seems to have some idea of the importance of who this is, and the public is watching it as it takes place, and it's the beginning of something that they don't realize how important this is going to be yet. But this is the opening statement in terms of his public ministry, and it all rolls from here. The importance of what's coming after this is going to be significant and obvious. And what they don't realize, of course, is that God himself is in human form. He's emerged from the obscurity of life in the northern regions of the Israel, and all of a sudden he is now on the public stage, drawing people to himself, declaring things that are true, and demonstrating the power of God. The baptism is where it all starts, and it's a significant launching point. We also see in this scene that John the Baptist himself raises some concern over it and says, I don't think it should be me that's baptizing you. I think you should be baptizing me because of who you are. But he, of course, relents, and they go through with it as planned. And then you have the powerful experience of the Father himself speaking from heaven and saying, this is my Son with whom I am well pleased, and the Holy Spirit coming and resting on him, appearing like a dove and resting on him in power. And so the whole dynamic is very powerful, very, very interesting when you watch it. Now, you might want to ask the question, though, why is the Father saying that he's pleased with Jesus if the first thing that Jesus has ever done in his public ministry is in this moment? Why he's pleased that he just started his ministry? I mean, surely there's more to this statement than what appears. And I used to look at it, always thought the same thing. I thought, I don't get why the Father is saying this at the beginning. It doesn't appear as though he's done anything. Well, I think we need to take a closer look, because I think we're going to discover that as we look more, just a little bit more wisely at what's gone on in Jesus' life up to this point, we begin to realize that there is reason for why the Father would say, well done. Well done, to have come out in this moment and declare this over you at this age and in this moment makes more sense, because look at all that's already taken place. So let's think about it a little bit differently. By this point, Jesus is 30 years old, which means that there's 30 years of history of him being on the earth, living in Israel, existing. We don't have a lot of record of it, of course. We know the birth narrative pretty well from the yearly Easter or Christmas story, but we don't have a whole lot else that is given in terms of information. We know that he was born in a stable and laid in a manger. We know the 3 wise men came by. We know that the shepherds saw the star. There's a handful of things like that. And then it kind of trails off quite quickly. And then the next time you see Jesus, he's 12 and he's teaching in the temple, and he's lost from his parents and they have to go and find him. And that's a brief encounter on a day, and then nothing again until he's 30. So 18 more years goes by, and we're missing all the details. But there is something going on, because Jesus is on the earth and he's alive and he's real. He's not a ghost. So he's living, he's active, he's doing things. The question is what? And more accurately, why? Because the why tells you a whole lot about who this is that you're following. And so, I mean, if you think through what we've said already in the previous episodes, You have to draw back. This is the creator of everything. This is the one who sustains the breath in your body and the heartbeat in your chest by the power of his word. This is the one who is the firstborn over all creation, the head of the church, and will be the head of the church for all time. He is the judge of the nations at the end of the age. He we see in the book of Revelation, there's judgment coming, and Jesus is front and center. Psalm chapter 2 tells us that he has given the iron scepter with which to rule the nations, to smash them like pottery at the appropriate moment. Which that's not the kind gentle Jesus with a sheep around his neck. That is a an iron scepter. That is judgment. That is rulership over the nations, and that is Jesus as well. That's how he's described. So there's more going on when you look at the little baby that you see born in the stable, and you think, well, that's it. He's a human. No, there's a whole lot wrapped up in the life of this one who's there. He chose by his sovereign will, by an agreement of the plan of the Trinity coming together to take on human form. And one of the central reasons was so he could be one of us, but also so that he could be close to us, so that he could be near to us, so that he could walk and live and experience life as we did, and do it with us together. Think about it. God is walking alongside on the road with his friends. God in human form is walking alongside of them on the roads in those days, not for a day or two, but for 30 years, interacting and mixing with them, touching people, eating meals together with his friends, with his followers, teaching, laughing, crying, enjoying them. And again, not just for 3 years of ministry, but for his whole life, the whole 33 years of his life, he was doing this, and 30 years of it was completely hidden. And he was just one of the many people that lived in that region, and nobody knew who he was. For decades, he chose to live under the care of a human family, actual parents choosing to obey them and learning to live under their roof and be part of the family dynamic that he placed himself into by his own choice, developing friendships with people. Again, a member of a family, a member of a local community, a member of a local synagogue where he would attend on a regular basis and hear the word of the Lord spoken and prayed and preached. He was near to each of them. He walked on this earth sinless for 30 years before anyone knew who he was, and experienced life in the same way that we experience life, and felt some of the impact of that. So when you think again about the statement that the Father makes concerning Jesus, in heaven it's understood that Jesus has already done so much. He has lived for 30 years in the care of what could only be described as a poorer family in an obscure area, a region of the country, in a relatively unimportant nation, really, on the earth. Jesus was, it's accurate to say, overlooked and to a great degree misunderstood. The king of everything is there, and he's a nobody, and nobody really knows who he is. And he doesn't surround himself with the things that are deserving of a king. There's no palace, there's no servants, there's no red carpet. I mean, he could have chosen all of that and had himself born into wealth and into privilege and into comfort and some kind of life of royalty, but he chose none of those things. Instead, he chose to live in hiddenness and to experience life much as you and I experience life here on the earth, overlooked, misunderstood to a great degree. We wish that people could understand what we're like, but we tend not to have that experience. We tend to go on searching for someone that really knows us or sees us of any kind of value. He would have worked hard for what he needed, just like we work hard for what we need. He knows your experience. He knows the pressures that you feel in your life because he felt the same kinds of pressures, and the struggles that you have in your life because he felt the same kinds of struggles. Jesus came to the earth, took on human form, and he allowed himself to live that way and to go through all of those things. It's correct to say that as we look at the 30 years that we don't know what he's doing and we don't have the details, that we're confident of this, that he gave himself to a life where he by experience and not just by divine knowledge now really knows you. I mean, he really knows you. He knows your experience. He became one of us. So when you sit down and you lay your head down on the pillow at night and you pray and you say, "Oh Jesus, that was a difficult day," or I'm anxious about the future, or I don't know where the money's coming from, or I don't know. Jesus is not so distant and so different than you that he can't relate. You're not speaking to a foreign God somewhere who is just so above you that he can't understand. He came near you to reveal himself to you. And really, it's even more than that. He came near so that he could win you to himself. To reveal himself to you is to cause your heart to be captured by him, to literally win you to himself. He was God in all ways, and yet he was there in the midst of our human struggle. And again, for the 30 of the 33 years, he just remains accessible and normal, and nobody even knows. And the Father looks at that from heaven and says, "Well done. Well done. I am pleased with my son." That it's not just the 3 years that are coming and all the things that he's going to do. It's the last 30 that you carried yourself so well in the midst of them. That you became one of them. You did it faithfully without sin. And you walked in their midst, and you know them well, and you know their journey well. He really does. He knows us. Jesus is much more than we understand. He's much more. He's not a distant superhero. He's as near as your struggles. He is as near as your human experience because he's done it himself. And not only that, but he chose to do it. I mean, you didn't choose it, you were born into it. And some people's lives are easier than others. Jesus literally chose it. And by choosing that, he makes an enormous statement to you and to me if we want to stop and see it. I'm for you. I'm with you, and I want to be with you as you walk through this journey. Turn to me, let me win your heart to me forever. Because that's what he's all about. And so we just need eyes to see. So I'm going to pray as we end that the Lord would open our eyes and cause our hearts to burn for him in a new way, and that we would just continue to go on this journey of being captivated by this man. So Jesus, we just say we love you. We thank you for what we see. We thank you for these things that stir us and cause our hearts to just be even more connected to you. Jesus, I thank you that it was your intention from the beginning to come and win our hearts, to be with us, to be near to us, to reveal yourself to us, but oh, so that we would say yes to you, and then we would come after you and follow you, and by doing so, we would be with you forever. It is your longing and your desire that we would be with you forever. And so, Jesus, we ask you for the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of who you are, that you would open our eyes and our hearts, we would see you differently, and we would be changed forever. Lord, come and do it for us, we ask, in Jesus' name. Thanks for watching. See you next time.